Part 69. Love is so bitter, painful, and hopeless. Why do I feel no secure at all? Sitting on the sofa, the more Xuan Huaifeng thought about it, the more uncomfortable it became. He wanted to vent, but he couldn't. He stood up abruptly and shook the bell rope. A servant ran in and asked what instructions he had. Xuan Huaifeng said, "Tell Song Ren. I want to practice guns and send me some bullets." He went to the room and found the Browning gun that Bai Xuelan gave him. Song Ren heard that he was going to practice guns, but Bai Xuelan did not forbid it. Song Ren hurriedly called someone to set targets in the yard, and personally brought the 2 large boxes of bullets over. Xuan Huaifeng took off the suit he was wearing when he went out, and changed into a thin long shirt with the cuffs tied with cloth ropes, looking very capable. The bullets were unboxed and scattered on the white open air table. He picked them up one by one, clucking the clips on the ground. After fiddling with the gun, his feet were slightly apart. His shoulders were raised, and he glanced at the target in the distance. Bang! Boom! Took 2 shots. Song Ren shouted at the side, "Adjutant Xuan. Your marksmanship is good." Xuan Huaifeng was annoyed at him, but he didn't talk to him, and fired a few more shots in silence, except for one of the 9 rings, the rest were all 10 rings. I emptied another magazine. This time, there are no 9 rings. All 10 rings. Xuan Huaifeng was also secretly surprised. He was actually too bored, so he only practiced guns and played. But he was more accurate than usual. He couldn't help but remember what Bai Xuelan said, with his heart but not his eyes. Don't force it, but rather understand it more. Thinking of this, I unknowingly forgot about my anger, and began to study more and more attentively. Not only did I practice the reloading speed, but I also deliberately took out the holster and tied it around my waist to see how I could draw the gun quickly and accurately. In the backyard of the White Mansion, the gunshots continued. Bang 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 bang, for a long time. After the 2 large boxes were fired, the targets had been changed several times. Song Ren looked at the targets, and when they broke through the center, they could pass through a hole the size of a fist. He sincerely praised, "Adjutant Xuan, even in our Shandong army, you can still rank in the position." Xuan Huaifeng asked back, "Anyone who can rank in the Shandong army also asks you Commander Pai before going out to eat." Song Ren smirked, scratched his head, and said, "I don't want to talk to you about this fight." Xuan Huaifeng said, "If you want to fight, you can't fight." Song Ren said, Yes, that's the reason. The chief can do the main thing. I'm big and rude. What kind of sesame particle dog's tail?" "Adjutant Xuan, I offended you just now. Don't be mad at me. In fact, in my heart, I know that you are a good person and very capable. Look how good you are with your guns." Xuan Huaifeng saw that he was such a sturdy man. He carefully held him for a long time, and then he couldn't get along with others, but he was too careful, and smiled helplessly. "Don't say anything else, let's practice guns. I can take a little more. Give me the bullets." Song Ren stammered, "Do you still need to practice? Don't take a break?" Xuan Huaifeng said, "Of course, I'm practicing, I'm excited." Song Ren smiled and persuaded, "Adjutant Xuan, this gun has recoil. You have already fired a lot of guns. If you practice again, you don't feel it right now. I'm afraid your arm will be sore tomorrow, and you can't lift it up. I'm not a rare bullet, I'm really thinking about you." Xuan Huaifeng heard it, and it made sense. He shouldn't ignore the kindness of others. But locked in the mansion, there is no work to do. No mood to read books, no gun practice, what time to play? Besides, I'm having fun practicing. Today was the most enjoyable one, and he was forced to shoot, but he was a little reluctant to give up. Xuan Huaifeng held the heavy pistol in his hand, twirled it twice, and grinned, "I see. You'd better get some more bullets. I don't need my right hand, so I can try the left hand. This way my right hand can rest. If I wake up tomorrow, it won't be too sore. Song Ren's eyes lit up. Left hand? This is good. If you practice it, you can use dual spears. You can do it, Xuan Huaifeng said. Just give it a try. Go get the bullets. Song Ren responded loudly. Okay. He rushed to get the bullets. After a while, he came back with bullets in his hand, and while helping unpack the box, he said cheerfully, Adjutant Xuan, in our Shandong army, there are also many people who use double guns, but not many good ones. What about these guns? I also practiced before. And at that time I planned to practice one hand and earn some face in front of the commander. Alas, it's really not easy to practice. Song Ren shook his head. It's just that my left hand is not good. I clearly aimed at the target. When I pulled the trigger, the shot went wrong. I don't know what happened. Anyway, this thing is not something that everyone can practice. The commander said, what should we pay attention to? What talent? Some people are good with the left hand, but not the right hand. If the right hand is good at the head, the left hand is not very accurate. The commander said that there are so many people in his hands that really make the two guns good. No more than this number. He stretched out a slap and shook it at Xuan Huaifeng. Less than 5? Song Ren said with a smile, our commander loves the most capable people. If you are good at using your guns, you will be in his eyes. At that time, if you go to Shandong to see us and see the commander, just show your hand and keep the commander in your hands. Xuan Huaifeng asked stunned, I'm going to Shandong to see Commander Pai? What do I see him for? Song Ren said, you've been with the chief, so one day you will meet the elders, right? Two big men. It's not easy, but you should see it, you have to see it. You can't hide it all your life. He said quickly. Seeing that Xuan Huaifeng suddenly went silent, he looked up, Xuan Huaifeng's face, but there was no expression on it. Song Ren panicked, and hurriedly said, Adjutant Xuan, I'm stupid. I said the wrong thing, don't worry about it. Oh, Song Ren, you stupid ass, what are you chewing on other people's business? You should be beaten. He raised his hand and slapped himself in the face. Wanting to fan again, Xuan Huaifeng grabbed his hand and said, just a few words, why are you fanning yourself? Start practicing guns. He took the loaded Browning in his left hand, turned and walked away. When he got to the sideline, he raised his left arm, tried to aim at the target, and said with a smile, I'm really not used to it. The Chinese are still right-handed. On the right front, there was a guard standing with a long spear on his back. Stay there and be ready to be greeted at any time. Help with target replacement and errands with used targets. Xuan Huaifeng was worried and gestured to him. Stand further away, I'm not sure about this gun. So don't fly over me. The guard also saw that he was holding a gun in his left hand. Hearing him say this, he ran away quickly dozens of steps. Only then did Xuan Huaifeng aim at the target and slam a shot. On this day, Bai Xuelan did not see a shadow until 6 o'clock. Xuan Huaifeng practiced guns for a day and was very tired. Because he had no personal freedom, he was still a little sullen, so he didn't wait for Bai Xuelan, and asked the housekeeper to deliver dinner and eat it by himself. The housekeeper personally delivered the food and asked Xuan Huaifeng if he had any other orders. Xuan Huaifeng didn't pay much attention to it at first, but his arm was aching faintly at one end of the bowl. He knew that he had practiced too much today, so he could not help frowning slightly, and said to the housekeeper, the chief is not here. If I eat alone in the future, I don't need to make such things. Come with a vegetarian meal, a meat meal, and a bowl of white rice. Now many people outside can't even drink porridge. So let's not be too extravagant. Also, about Fu San, I didn't tell you. This. Adjutant Xuan, I can't do anything either. The housekeeper said hurriedly, seeing Xuan Huaifeng frowning. He had long wondered why he was dissatisfied with himself, but when he suddenly heard about Fu San, he jumped. 80% of it was his secret report to the chief. And the Adjutant Xuan knew about it. Adjutant Xuan is a big celebrity next to the chief. Of course, it is very serious to offend the chief. Offending Adjutant Xuan. The consequences are also very serious. However, the Adjutant Xuan is a good person, and it is better to deal with than the chief. The housekeeper said with a sullen face. As soon as the chief came back, he asked how those things were stolen. You know, I'm an honest person, and I'm the worst at lying. The chief glared at me, and I told the whole truth. It's not that I dare not to obey your orders, it's really Chief's order. Xuan Huaifeng was still stunned at first, wondering why the housekeeper was so flustered, but he understood and laughed. So, that's what you said. Okay, guy, if I don't ask, you're going to hide it. No, even if you don't ask, of course I'll tell the truth. Xuan Huaifeng laughed and scolded, forget it. I know a little bit about the mind of the housekeeper and the servant. 9 out of 10 of you people rely on whistleblowers to seek rewards. Yesterday, I didn't think about it for a while, and I was confused. I asked you to help me tell a lie. Later think about it, that can't be done. You are the housekeeper in the mansion. If you help others to deceive the owner of the mansion, what is the matter? I helped a servant, but I dragged you into the water instead. The housekeeper glanced at Xuan Huaifeng's face. He didn't seem to be angry, but he relaxed a little bit and said with a smile, that's not what I said, I don't have the guts to lie to the chief. Xuan Huaifeng said, so. I took a chance last night, told him the truth, and asked him to show his hand. I just said, why didn't he ask anything about stealing things, so you've already informed him. I'm not enough smart. I should have thought of it earlier. The housekeeper bowed his body, just don't be angry with this servant. Xuan Huaifeng said, I just wanted to tell you about Fu San. You don't need to help me to tell the lie, I've confessed. If you want to say anything, just talk to the chief. Now, I can naturally save my words. But I want to make sure, how is Fu San now? The chief said that he let him go. Are you really not prosecuted? The housekeeper said, you can rest assured this, Adjutant Xuan. The chief has nothing to say. In fact, it would be a blessing to drive out such a cheap thing without a fight, and now the chief has let him stay. With this errand, he gave him ginseng and told him to take it back and cook it for his mother to eat. Xuan Huaifeng couldn't help but smile. Not for Fu San. Hearing the housekeeper talking about Bai Xuelan like this, his heart was surprisingly hot. It was as if that person had done one good deed more than he had done 10. In my mind, I thought of Bai Xuelan's gentleness and drizzle. Kindness and generosity when he helped the weak and helpless. I don't know how calm and unrestrained it would be. Xuan Huaifeng smiled and said, you should take care of him in the future. And tell him to stop stealing things. The housekeeper said, the chief treats him like this and he still steals. God will kill him next time. After dinner, Xuan Huaifeng said with a smile. Xuan Huaifeng's arm hurt more and more. The first time I shot a gun with my left hand, it was even more painful than my right hand. It was sore and sore. After taking a shower, I changed my clothes and put it on after gritting my teeth. He didn't dare to do anything else, he simply turned off the lights early to sleep. It was hazy in the middle of the night, and I heard the pendulum clock stutteringly. It was already 1 o'clock in the morning. Xuan Huaifeng rolled over with his eyes closed, and touched his hand to the side. Pounced empty. Without touching the familiar hot and strong body, the palm of his hand touched the bedsheet, and a silky coldness came over. Xuan Huaifeng couldn't help but wake up, opened his eyes and saw Bai Xuelan's shadow. How come this person hasn't come back after all this time? Powerful men often spend time drinking and never return home at night. Xuan Huaifeng also knows it. One is his brother-in-law who is Ninliang Fu, and the other is his father, Commander Xuan. These are typical examples. But since Bai Xuelan got along with him, it wasn't like this. Xuan Huaifeng thought again, thinking of the person Bai Xuelan had offended outside. He was ambushed by a cigarette dealer on the road before, and Bai Xuelan was shot in the arm. Later, there was another shootout in the Jinghua building, as if something bad happened. Dragging his increasingly sore arms, he hurriedly got out of bed and pulled the bell. After a while, a servant came over, rubbing his confused eyes, and asked, "Adjutant Xuan, what are your orders?" Xuan Huaifeng asked, "Has the chief come back yet?" The servant said, "No." Xuan Huaifeng said, "Have you called back and said where did he go?" The servant said, "I don't care about the telephone room, I'll ask you. Would you like some hot tea? Let me make a cup?" Xuan Huaifeng shook his head. "I don't drink tea, go and ask." The servant turned and left. Xuan Huaifeng was in the room, fidgeting and restless while waiting. "I wanted to pour myself a glass of plain water, but my arm was so sore that I couldn't seem to lift the water bottle." It was a burst of unreasonable fear. After waiting for about 20 minutes, it seemed like he had been suffering for several hours. Xuan Huaifeng couldn't wait any longer. He wanted to go to the telephone room by himself, make a phone call to the Prime Minister's office and ask. Something moves in the darkness. The servant was coming from that end. Xuan Huaifeng waited patiently for him to arrive, and then asked, "How is it? Where is the chief?" The servant said, "There is no one in the telephone room. I can't find out if you have called back." However, the servant said, the driver drove the chief's car back at 10 o'clock. The driver said that the chief and a large group of people went to Wutong Alley and would not go home to sleep tonight. It was difficult to park in the alley, so he drove the car back to the mansion first. "I'll pick up the chief tomorrow morning." Xuan Huaifeng asked, "That's it?" The servant said, "That's it." Xuan Huaifeng asked, "Where is Wutong Alley?" He is really serious, and he doesn't even know about Wutong Alley. This kind of place was famous for Wutong Alley a few years ago. Now, young and beautiful women can't afford to eat, or Xiang is too crowded, so they all go to Wutong Alley to do business. In the past 2 years, people who know goods have gone to Wutong Alley. Wutong Alley is a notorious place in the capital, and Xuan Huaifeng has also heard a little about it. The servant said so. This Wutong Alley is undoubtedly a place for private prostitutes to attract customers, and the flesh and blood are romantic. Xuan Huaifeng suddenly felt sick for a while. He said to the servant, "You can make me a cup of tea." The servant made a cup of hot pu'er tea and put it on the table. Xuan Huaifeng nodded and said, "Thank you for your hard work, go to sleep." When the servant left, he sat down at the table and stared at the misty cup of pu'er tea, motionless. After half a day, the cup was no longer steaming, and he still watched quietly. In the silence, the large pendulum clock made a soft click, and then rang 2 muffled bangs. Xuan Huaifeng seemed to have been struck by the dull pendulum, causing a dull pain. But it was as if his soul had been knocked out of his own body in an instant. He doesn't believe it, Bai Xuelan is not such a person. He couldn't believe it in his heart, he was so blind. In the past, I fell in love with Kijun, and Kijun held the actors outside, one after another. Now, he loves Bai Xuelan. Bai Xuelan used to support actors, he knew it. Yu Luha, Pai Yunfei. Didn't they all come to the door? Now that people don't come to the door, Bai Xuelan poured out and went out to visit some Wutong alley. Xuan Huaifeng only felt a little bit of pain in his throat, as if he had swallowed a stomach of bitter Chinese medicine, and the discomfort oozes from it. I don't believe it. He gritted his teeth and spat out a few words. For such a trivial matter, he shouldn't make a fuss. Besides, he didn't believe it. The 20 minutes I waited for the news just now seemed like a year. Now the time is passing fast in the quiet night. Xuan Huaifeng only sat for a while, and then he heard the big pendulum clock strike 3 times. Sit quietly for a while, and after a while, I knocked 4 more times. Even though it was summer. Sitting with bare feet at night, there was a bit of chill that penetrated from the square tile floor, and it was close to the heel of the calf, oozing into it. For no reason. Xuan Huaifeng recalled that night when he hid outside the window and listened to the few lines of Qixi, sung by Bai Xuelan in a low voice in the room. I just feel that time is like an arrow. Infinite, idle sorrow and hatred, all the brows. Sure enough, really, after time flies like an arrow, what follows, naturally, is boundless sorrow and hatred. It can be seen that liking someone is really a hard thing to do. Bai Xuelan only gave Fu San a few ginseng plants, and he was so happy. Bai Xuelan only didn't return overnight, and he was so uncomfortable. In the future, there will be other bigger movements. If the two have more unhappiness, wouldn't it be even more painful? Thinking of this, Xuan Huaifeng sighed, unable to think about it. Then he hummed the tune of Qixi in his memory in a low voice. Intermittently, I sang back and forth a long passage I remembered. And it seemed that my heart was no longer so depressed and painful, and I couldn't help thinking to myself, Bai Xuelan was not like this. Drowsiness gradually rolled up. The pendulum clock struck again. This time, Xuan Huaifeng ignored its knocks, closed his eyes, rested his forehead on his forearm, and fell asleep silently on the table.